All right, well, welcome. I have a real quick one. It's a lightning talk, which is kind of nice. So yeah, I'm looking at equity consciousness in an online course I teach for practicing teachers who are getting their master's degree in curriculum and instruction. And this is, of course, a big issue in the US as well as probably everywhere. Let's see if I can press the button. Oh, that button. So the big issue I deal with, this is an asynchronous course. When I used to teach it face-to-face, and when I work with undergraduates face-to-face, we can have a lot of rich discussions around issues of educational inequity, and students would come with their own experiences. I have students in this course. We're in the state of Michigan, which I realize is very big. We were in Edinburgh a couple of days ago, and from Edinburgh to London, they said, oh, I think it's 500 miles. And I realized, oh, I think we can go almost twice as long, the lowest part of our state to the upper. And it varies so much. We have Detroit, which is our main city. Within the cities and university towns are very diverse, and we have quite a different population than many of our rural areas, especially in the Upper Peninsula. Our university, for some reason, we get a lot of students in the online course who are in between the Upper Peninsula, which is a different world from Detroit. We get them all. So if I had them all in one room, we'd have a lot of great conversations. And we don't have that. And I can't, this is not a synchronous, or it is an asynchronous course just for the nature of it. So I have found I really struggle with getting them to understand each other's perspectives and the differences in their schools. So one way I try to bring in counter narratives. So the idea with that is that it gives voice to often silenced and marginalized communities. And for many of these teachers who are in very white, small rural towns, something like what happens in Detroit is a very different world for them. So I have found it really effective to use these digital counter narratives. And what that means, it could be anything, short videos, TikToks, podcasts, which is the one I found to be the most effective, films, all sorts of things. I should say, in this book or in this course, it is current issues in education, and really educational inequity is what I'm dealing with. Oh, that's very nice. I have a great book, and the book it gives a lot of theory, it gives a lot of facts, we learn a lot, but the affective part is missing. So I have found these really helpful to raise awareness, build empathy, promote equity consciousness, and it just humanizes the issues. So I will show you the ones I really found to be the most effective, but it allows the students to hear the stories of the teachers, students, and families who deal with these issues of inequity. There we go. So here are the podcasts I use. This is it's actually a national public radio show that you can listen as a podcast called This American Life. And these are three that I have picked that are incredibly effective. The first one, 3 Miles, it talks about two very different schools. It's actually one of the poorest in New York City and one of the richest in New York City. They're exactly 3 miles apart, and the students merge together. And this is all of these podcasts. You're hearing the voices of the students. You're hearing the parent meetings. You're hearing from the teachers. Is this working? Is dealing with especially punishment and how that looks very different in city schools and how that affects children of color very differently than white children. And then the last one is actually the one that is the most powerful for these students. The problem we all live with. It is looking at 2 schools in Missouri. One was almost a completely Black poor school, and the district was falling apart, so they merged with the white school. And the reaction of the more middle class white families as these schools merged is very hard to hear. So these are the podcasts. I have found them to be really effective. I've also used, I'm really bad at this. There we go. Some YouTube videos in Detroit. So these are very short videos that show what school is really like there. Gives little tours of the buildings. This is in the same state that some of our students are at very, very well-funded schools. To see the difference is incredibly eye-opening. So we look at these two. I actually expected these to be more powerful because you see in the schools, but what the students, and again, these are all teachers, it's the podcasts. At the end, I have them reflect. I have prompts where they write something like what I learned, or how I felt, or what made me angry, and they draw on the different sources. They never mention the book. It never comes up. The things that have affected them, that they've learned the most from, are the videos and the podcasts, and in particular the podcasts. So these were just a little sample. And you can see here, and these are all teachers. Some of them had been teaching 20 years and they had never heard or seen some of the inequities that are happening even within our own state. They're not very different. Looking at what's happening in Missouri is not all that different from the Detroit area. I like this last one. Eye-opening, gut-wrenching, much of what I learned will stick with me and alter the way I view education and achievement gaps. We had done so much reading on educational inequity and achievement gaps. They all nodded along, okay, that's a real problem. It wasn't until they get to these podcasts where they feel it. And so that I found to be just the most effective way. And for me, teaching them in this asynchronous format where they are, I don't get to meet them, they don't get to meet each other. We were missing that affect, the emotions, which these are emotional issues that they need to be aware of. So that is what we did. There we go. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.